And you're live here on Joy 99.7 FM, and sincere apologies for the break in transmission. We had a massive challenge with the rains and lightning, and that is why we were off air for a while, and we are back on air now, and thanks for your patience. This is Newsnight, is on Joy 99.7 FM. And tonight, fallout from search of former BOG Governor rages on as minority in Parliament slams Attorney General, accusing him of failing to respect the constitutional rights of persons suspected of committing crimes.
We are here this morning to remind the learned Attorney General of the Republic of the constitutional provisions that protect the citizens of the Republic.
We'll bring you reactions as the AG insists its action was in accordance with law. Also tonight, minority describes 2025 budget as uninspiring and insensitive to growth.
The private sector initiative is the reason why they are unable to tell us a single initiative for the private sector. I ask a question. What is the work of the trade minister?
But the majority side, they have a quick response to the minority on the budget.
The debate is of the budget policy that was presented to this House and not governance generally. The budget clearly establishes President John Dramani Mahama as a talk and do president of Ghana.
And I want to hear from you, 055-1111-997. The minority in Parliament have slammed the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine, accusing him of disrespecting the constitutional rights of citizens suspected of committing crimes. On Monday, the AG spoke to journalists outlining various offences allegedly committed by former Director General of the Bureau of National Communications, addressing a news conference in Parliament. Legal counsel to the minority and MP for Swame, John Darko, accused the AG of media trial and failing to respect the rights of persons arrested.
We are here this morning to remind the learned Attorney General of the Republic of the constitutional provisions that protect the citizens of the Republic. We are here to remind the learned Attorney General of Article 14 of the Constitution, which talks about the protection of personal liberty. We are here to remind him that that provision is still part of our laws. We are here to remind the learned Attorney General that Article 15 of our Constitution, which talks about human dignity, is still part of the laws of this country. Articles 18 and 19 of our Constitution, which deal with the protection of privacy, of home and property, and of course due process, have not been repealed from our Constitution. And for that matter, any person who is given the opportunity as our learned Attorney General to enforce our law must do so within the provisions of this Constitution. The sanctity of these constitutional provisions quoted above, and the duty placed on the Attorney General of the Republic, who also doubles as Minister for Justice, requires the AG to ensure that a person charged with criminal offense is protected and presumed innocent until proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction or until that person has pled guilty.
Well, the Attorney General has been standing his ground, mounting a strong defense of his actions so far. Listen to Deputy Attorney General Justice Stremsai.
He had no basis to support the allegation that the minority made that the persons who went to conduct the search were hungry boys looking for food. These are ways of just ridiculing people who are doing official work. And I think that it's time the minority, took a step to avoid some of these things. I mean, we are both lawyers. There are certain things that we have common grounds on. We know that if something is lost or is missing, the first thing you do as a lawyer or advise your clients to do is to report to the police. As we speak, no reports have been made. These are bare allegations of basically no basis. Like Professor Chia said, indeed, we can only relay what we have. And what we have, and we have done 2 briefings on this matter. What we have is what I've put out, that a lot of whatever happened there were done cordially. Of course, if Dr. Addison has any issue, the only way we can investigate that is when he makes a complaint, but not when third party who was neither present or had no connection with the event decide to make allegations.
Yeah, and Justice, in the interest of time, and I want to give a final word to Kpebu, but in the interest of time, the AG promises today that we will get more briefings, but we also would effect more arrests and the probe will continue. Are there any lessons you've learned at all in the last few weeks as you embark on this drive that may influence how you approach the next arrest, the next search warrant, etc.?
Indeed, Evans, the first lesson we have learned is to make sure that the next time we conduct any search, we'll be the first to come out to inform the public of the search. The reason why we didn't think it was right for us to do that was because these are matters, like Professor Chia said, these are matters of privacy. So, for example, if we recorded the search in the house, do we publish it in this situation? Do we publish it to the public? And if we do the publication, won't Dr. Addison's right to privacy be violated? Because I don't think he wants everybody to see what is happening in his house, to know how his house looks like. So these are things that we weigh.
Well, as this controversy rages on, a member of that oral committee is now demanding a commission of inquiry into how the search warrant was executed on the home of the former Bank of Ghana governor. Listen to Martin Kpebu.
Search the people, the persons going to undertake the search. Search them in front of the occupant, the owner of the premises or the occupant. Let him see that people have been searched. Let it be videotaped. Okay, so that's why they should use body cams. And when they finish, do the same search. Then, if somebody comes to say that any money is missing,
you have a basis to
last point,
that.
Evans, last point, we want to use commission of inquiry to get to the bottom of this matter. Jerry Ahmed Shaib, MP for Wager, came back to say that even the National Security Coordinator had to call Dr. Addison to apologize. I think the accusations and counter-accusations are too many. Let's set up commission of inquiry to get into the bottom of this matter as to what went on, so that when people suffer adverse consequences, the Constitution says that people can be debarred from becoming MPs. Yes, it's there, Article 278, etc. So Article 93 and 94. If a commission of inquiry makes a recommendation that you, for your conduct, you should not take public office, you cannot become an MP, so that we can punish some people, whoever is lying, because it's embarrassing.
And that is Martin Kpebu, a member of that oral committee. So live your news tonight is on Joy 99.7 FM. I want to return to that top story we're bringing you when we got truncated on air because of the lightning strike that we suffered. It's a major development story, and it is part of an investigation that was ordered by the energy minister that has tonight revealed how the Electricity Company of Ghana failed to account for 1,300 containers that are now missing at the port, and these containers have now become a subject of an extensive investigations. And thankfully, we can bring in John Jinapor, who joins us on the line right now. He is the Energy Minister, and we can speak to him now. Thank you, Mr. Jinapor, for your time here on Newsnight. So, what exactly were in these containers that you can now find?
Well, I'm not sure who you are speaking to. If it's me you are speaking to.
We will be speaking shortly to John Jinapor. I believe we right now have Collins Adomako Mensah, who is a former Deputy Energy Minister and ranking member on the Energy Committee, who we also have on, I understand. Yes, Mr. Adomako Mensah, I believe we have you on the line, but the Energy Minister is also on the line now. Please stay with me for a second. Let me bring him in right now. We'll get him on. But Mr. Adomako Mensah, you followed the developments. The Energy Minister had instituted this particular probe into the container stack at the ports. Stay with me. I understand he's now back on the line and can hear me. Mr. Jinapor, can you hear me?
I can.
Fantastic. I was wondering, what were in these containers?
Basically, meters, cables, poles, steel materials, general materials that ECG would normally use, what you call consumables.
And the committee you set up came back with a report, and we understand from what they found that they can find 1,300 of these containers?
Yes. What happened is that on assumption of office, I had a briefing, and even at the transition, we got to know that ECG had some containers stuck at the port. And so my briefing on assumption of office indicated that they had about 2,500 containers stuck at the port. I visited the port myself and got to know that there was a demurrage of about 1.5 billion. And so I set up this committee to investigate why we are in that state and what we can do to clear all the containers as soon as possible. Today, the report indicates that when they conducted the count of the containers, though on paper, ECG reports that about 2,450 thereabout containers are stuck at the port, their investigation and counting shows that more than 1,300 of those containers are missing and cannot be accounted for.
What do you plan to do now, based on what you've now found?
Launch a criminal investigation into this matter, a forensic one. There's paper trail, and so we ought to determine where and how those containers were taken out of the port and where they ended. National security, the ports, clearing companies, ECG itself, and all those in the value chain will come under the radar. And I'm sure that once we launch this criminal investigation, we'll get to the bottom of it, and the culprits will be brought to book.
I mean, it's astonishing that 1,300 containers are missing. You're not saying the contents are missing, the entire container, the entire fleet of containers, 1,300 of them all missing without a trace?
The entire fleet of containers cannot be accounted for.
I mean, how is that even possible?
That is very strange. I find that very strange. Is it that people just lifted the containers from the port? Is it that they pretend to be clearing them and on the way they divert them? I mean, all these are issues that will be resolved once we conclude this. As I'm writing to the police service, I'm writing to the presidency, to the attorney general, and I will pick it up from there and conduct a very detailed investigation. The other thing we are doing is that the remaining containers, we want to evacuate them in collaboration with national security to a secured warehouse, but we need to put in place stringent measures. My worry is that even in the process of taking the remaining containers to a safe haven, anything can happen. You can't trust anybody at this level.
What is the value of each container? Do you know?
It could cost close to about 500,000 USD.
For one container?
For one container.
You mean $500,000?
$500,000 United States dollars.
And were these containers all shipped into Ghana to go, or they were done over a period?
I want to get the details through the investigation. And what really shocked me is that there were containers stuck already ECG could not clear those containers, and yet they ordered for the same items. And so, for instance, you have a container stuck at Mahabo. It contains meters. You don't have money to clear that container, but you are able to sign another contract for similar meters to be shipped to add to the one stuck at the port. And then they decide to merge the procurement directorate, which is a standalone directorate, with the estates department, and put the estate manager in charge of estates and procurement, and rather push the procurement director who has experience in procurement away, and is now the estate manager who is awarding contracts in terms of procurement. I mean, it just makes no sense.
I mean, if one container costs an average of $500,000 with 1,300 containers now missing, we are talking the region of $650 million.
That's a lot of money.
Please stay with me. The former deputy energy minister is with me on the line. Collins Adomako Mensah, your reaction to these shocking, jaw-dropping findings? Hello. Mr. Adomako Mensah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, your reaction to the shocking findings?
Well, I'm yet to see that, but listening to my brother and friend John Jinapo, I'm also as shocked as you are. I mean, containers vanishing from the ports is not something you hear of very often. And as the minority deputy ranking on the Energy Committee, I want to assure him of our full cooperation to ensure that the corporates are brought to book. As I said, I've not seen the full details, but listening to your interview and reading from the internet on what transpired today at the ministry when they presented their report, it's very, very strange.
I mean, when you were deputy energy minister at the ministry, did this come to your attention at all?
Not at all. As you know, I joined the ministry at the tail end, and so I didn't get this particular information. But the procurement breaches, as being explained by my brother, I'm just hoping that is not the case, because to merge the procurement department and the estate department, and then rather have someone who does not have too much experience in procurement to be leading procurement contracts in an organization like ECG, it's very strange. ECG has a board, ECG has a management, and I'm sure all these things contract to go through a certain process. It will be interesting to see how the investigations will go. But as I said, all I can tell my brother and friend John Jinapo, that on the minority side, on the committee, we are going to give him the full cooperation to ensure that sanity is brought.
And Mr. Jinapo, when the committee submitted the report to you, did they indicate any individuals of interest that you should be interested in talking to as part of the further investigations?
Well, they've made some recommendations. I've assured them that we would implement the recommendations. First of all, ECG must immediately decouple the estate department from the procurement unit, conduct a competitive process to get a qualified procurement person to occupy that position. We have to review the managing director's limits, because they can sign 10 contracts and it will still take you to a very high figure because of that limit. The board itself, their reporting mechanism ought to be improved. And then we must have a transparent way of procurement, and all of us must see what is happening. So at least that takes care of the issues going forward. Then you have to deal with these containers. We have to determine which containers are missing, how come they are missing, who are people responsible, and also retrieve either the containers or the monetary value of the containers.
Thank you very much. And that day is John Jinapo, is the energy minister. Earlier you had the ranking member on the Energy Committee in Parliament and former Deputy Energy Minister, Collins Adomako Mensah. And you can find more on this developing story on myjoyonline.com and across many social media platforms. George Affe is here with business. Hello, George.
Hi, Evans, and coming up in business, Talo Oil set to commence fresh drillings on the Jubilee fields from May this year. Move expected to significantly improve crude production in the coming months. And also, Finance Minister Arthur Forson promises to press hard with respect to the required IMF reforms despite current economic challenges and sticking to campaign promises. Let's now settle for the details. The business news is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Synthesis thanks. Now, oil exploration firm Tyler Oil has promised that it will commence fresh drillings on the Jubilee field for May this year. The move is expected to help improve crude production, which has been on the decline in recent times. There is more in this report.
This update was captured in Tullow Oil's 2024 financial results released in London today. The oil exploration firm is going ahead to commence drilling on these two new wells after it's completed work on gathering data from the Jubilee field with its latest machines when it comes to the areas on the Jubilee field that Tullow should target. Tullow Oil is expecting that these wells will contribute to its full-year projection by the end of this year. Development will go a long way to improve the total value crude oil that Tullow Oil is producing. This is because the field has not been doing that well when it comes to total crude production. It may go a long way to improve the total amount of taxes that Tullow Oil will be paying to government at the end of this year. The 2024 results also revealed that Tullow Oil is planning to release some $250 million capital expenditure for oil-related activities. Tullow Oil also disclosed it has been able to save more than $320 million in liability payment to government of Ghana following significant progress made and address the tax dispute issues.
And that is the Business Desk report. Now, Finance Minister Dr. Arthur Forson has given the firm assurance that he will press ahead with the required IMF program reforms despite the political cost to government. The assurance by the Finance Minister is coming at a time that Ghana is said to have missed out on some critical targets for last year. The administration was hit by a similar, and some have argued that would this administration be hit by a similar challenge. The Finance Minister gave this assurance when he actually engaged the Ghana is taking steps to formalize transitional education with the national framework. Now, speaking at the TNE validation workshop, Deputy Minister for Education Clement Park emphasized the need for swift policy development to guide and enhance Ghana's participation at the global level when it comes to education. And that's all for business on Newsnight.
And George, thank you very much. It's still live on Newsnight. It's on Joy 99.7 FM, and your thoughts are welcome on the show. A big story tonight, and you can find it on our social media platforms. The Energy Ministry has confirmed to us tonight that they will be launching a criminal investigations into the disappearance of some 1,300 containers belonging to the ECG that had cables in it. It also had meters in it, all missing from the port at Tema. And he estimates that one container will cost us $500,000. That brings us to some $650 million worth of containers that can't be found as we speak. And George, this is something obviously that I know your team has been working on, obviously because it has to do with the port. And this ties into the duties that you have to pay, that ECG is unable to raise the money to pay for it, and so the containers come in with all these equipment and also the parts that they need to provide you with electricity, and they're unable to clear.
It raises issues also about procurement as well within the public space, and how are these firms and state institutions sticking to those rules and regulations when it comes to procurement in the country?
And you can find the rest of the details on many social media platforms. Now, some school children in the East Mamprasi narrowly escaped death when a classroom wall collapsed just minutes after teachers got them out. It was the second time the structure had failed, yet lessons continue inside. Nearby, a 6-unit Get Fund block started in 2012 remains uncompleted despite repeated appeals. Emmanuel Jibenu has more in our education series. Today's episode of Crumbling Start.
All right.
Here at Nanori Presby Primary School, education comes at a cost.
I am Saibu Akwa, the head teacher of Nanori Presbyterian Primary School. Classes were in session and the KG children were there. So, knowing the weak nature of the structure, I sent all the children to the uncompleted building. In less than 10 minutes, the wall collapsed. So if the children were there, I would have killed most of them. Go by hand. If you know it, you raise up your hand.
What's left of the classroom is a fragile shelter of patched walls and uncertainty.
Again, to who? And the building itself, in fact, is a death trap.
But it wasn't supposed to be this way. In 2012, construction began on a 6-unit classroom block funded by the Ghana Education Trust Fund. 12 years on, this is all that stands. No floors, no windows and doors, no future.
I'm Honorable Odim Joshua and an assemblyman. The guest farm building, they started it 2012 and the roofing also done 2013. The contractor ran away up to now.
During the rainy season, teaching becomes a dangerous gamble. Leaking rooms, shaky walls, no escape plan. School stops. Not by choice, but by nature.
Raining, we don't feel comfortable keeping the children here because of the nature of the structure.
The local assembly says it has written several letters. GS says it cannot intervene. Meanwhile, children sit in fear, 12 years and counting.
I'm Seydou Banle, AD Planning, the East Mamprusi Municipal Education Directorate. It is not our interest to have them where they are, but we are hands tied.
Despite the odds, the children keep coming. They dream of becoming nurses, teachers, doctors, and presidents. But hope alone cannot build classrooms.
Because sometimes I ask myself whether we are part of Ghana. How can a structure like this be put for over 10 years today? So why will I say the state or the nation is being fair to us? Are we not Ghanaians?
For 12 years, promises have crumbled, just like the school walls.
If duty bearers could come into our aid in the upbringing of Ghanaian children, in the upbringing of children who will lead this nation in future, to ensure that these buildings and other structures that are meant for education brought and then put up to this school, it will help.
The children of Nanori are not asking for much, just the right to learn in safety, in dignity, and in peace. Emmanuel Jivenu, Joy News, East Mamprusi Municipality, Northeast Region.
And in our Ghana Man series, we take you to Fort Prinsenstein in the Volta region, where the people of Agbozume rose against Danish slave traders. My colleague, Kojo Yangsing, has more.
Come with me to Keta in the Volta region, to the last Ghanaian fort on the way to Togo.
Welcome to Fort Prinsenstein.
There is something unique about the role this particular fort played in Ghana's sordid slavery story. Therefore, our colleague knows all about it.
And this tool was taken from the chiefs. When they came here, they sought permission from the chiefs. And when they are putting up the fort, they realized that they are converting the fort into a slave post. So our people stood against them. Toby Degeni said no, they will not allow them to continue the building. So Toby Degeni was killed. That made our people move from here to where they are now, Agbozume. So the people of Agbozume spotted the Danish governor along the coast of Redano Denu. So he was captured, and so they make him the idol over there in the back of the Denu market. So when you go to the back of the Denu market, you see some big idol. It contained the remains of the Danish governor at that time.
So when he was captured, he never made it back here? They killed him there?
They killed him because he was the one who killed their chief.
Find a full story on many digital platforms, Facebook, YouTube, X, and also on myjoyonline.com. And sincere apologies once more for that break in transmission earlier. Enjoy the rest of your evening.